My name's Emma, and I've got a twin sister, Sarah. You'd think being twins would make us close, but it couldn't be further from the truth. We might have popped out on the same day, but that's where our similarities end. From day one, it was clear I wasn't what my parents wanted. They'd planned on having just one kid, and I guess I was the unwelcome surprise package. Sarah was the spitting image of our mom, all blonde hair and blue eyes. Me? I took after Dad's side of the family, with dark hair and eyes that reminded everyone of my grandmother. The same grandmother my mom couldn't stand. Grandma's shoe store was my sanctuary. From the moment I stepped inside, the familiar scent of leather and polish wrapped around me like a comforting hug. The rhythmic tapping of heels on hardwood floors created a soothing melody that drowned out the chaos of my home life. This place felt more like home than our cramped apartment ever did. "There's my little entrepreneur," Grandma would call out, her voice warm and welcoming as I burst through the door after school. Her face, lined with years of laughter and wisdom, would light up with genuine joy. For once, I felt truly wanted, truly seen. I started helping out in the store when I was barely tall enough to see over the counter. Grandma would lift me up, perching me on a high stool, so I could watch her work the old-fashioned cash register. As I grew, so did my responsibilities. By the time I hit my teens, I knew that store inside and out. It was different at home. "Emma, why can't you just wear what your sister's wearing?" Mom would huff, trying to squeeze me into another frilly pink nightmare. "It looks so cute on Sarah." I'd stare at my reflection, feeling like a clown in a rhinestone-covered sweatshirt, with a seal plastered across the front. "I look stupid," I'd mutter. As we got older, the differences in how they treated us became even more obvious. Sarah was the princess who could do no wrong. Me? I was the workhorse. "Emma, you need to work hard and make something of yourself," Dad would lecture. "Then you can help take care of your sister and us." "But we're the same age," I'd protest. "Why doesn't Sarah have to work hard too?" Mom would give me that look, the one that said I was being a pain in the ass again. "Your sister has other talents. You need to focus on being responsible." Responsible. That was their code word for, do everything we tell you to do, and don't complain about it. We lived in a tiny apartment. Dad worked as an insurance agent, and Mom was a shop assistant. Money was always tight, but somehow Sarah always got what she wanted. New clothes, the latest gadgets, you name it, she had it. The only thing that kept me going was the knowledge of the secret stash. Grandma, Dad's mom, had given my parents a big chunk of change when we were born. It was supposed to be for our college education. Both of us. "Remember, Emma," Grandma had told me once when I was staying at her place. "That money's for you and Sarah to go to college. Don't let anyone tell you different." I held on to that knowledge like a lifeline. It was the one thing that made me feel like I had a future, like I wasn't just the family workhorse. As our 16th birthday approached, a tiny spark of hope flickered in my chest. Maybe now that we were older, stepping into adulthood, Mom and Dad would start treating us more equally. Maybe they'd finally see me for who I was, not just as Sarah's less desirable shadow. Boy, was I in for a rude awakening. The morning of our birthday dawned bright and clear. Sarah was still asleep, probably dreaming of the party Mom had been planning for weeks. I, on the other hand, was up early, my stomach churning with a mix of anticipation and dread. Dad called me into the living room just as I finished my toast. His face was unreadable, and he was holding a small metal box. Mom stood beside him, her lips pressed into such a tight line they almost disappeared. "Emma," Dad said, his voice oddly formal, like he was addressing a stranger instead of his daughter. "It's time you learned about responsibility and saving money." He handed me the box. It was heavier than it looked, and cold to the touch. A safe deposit key, I realized with a sinking feeling. "If you want to go to college, you'll need to earn the money yourself," Mom chimed in, her tone clipped and matter of fact. "This is for you to keep your savings in." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. All the air rushed out of my lungs, and for a moment, I couldn't speak. When I finally found my voice, it came out as a strangled whisper. "But, what about the money Grandma gave you for our education? Where's that?" The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Mom's eyes narrowed dangerously, and Dad suddenly became very interested in a spot on the wall behind my head. "There is no money for your education, Emma," Mom said, her voice ice cold and sharp enough to cut. "You'll have to earn it yourself if you want to study." "But Grandma said," I started, my mind reeling. This couldn't be happening. Grandma had told me about that money, had made it clear it was for both Sarah and me. "You are not to breathe a word of this to your grandmother," Mom snapped, cutting me off mid-sentence. Her eyes flashed with a warning that made my blood run cold. "If you do, I'll make sure you never see her again. Do you understand?" I nodded mutely, my throat too tight to speak. Grandma was the only bright spot in my life, the only person who seemed to truly care about me. The thought of losing her was unbearable. I clutched the useless safe deposit key so hard the metal edges dug into my palm, but I barely felt the pain. The apartment buzzed with excitement as Sarah's friends poured in, their chatter and laughter filling every corner. I stood in the kitchen, feeling like a ghost in my own home. Mom had made it clear, I wasn't to invite anyone. This was Sarah's night. "Emma, come on, it's cake time," Dad called, his voice overly cheerful. I trudged to the living room, where Sarah sat beaming in front of a massive cake, 16 candles flickering. Everyone sang. Sarah closed her eyes, made a wish, and blew out the candles. The room erupted in cheers. I silently cut the cake, handing out slices to Sarah's friends, before taking one for myself. As I took a bite of the sickeningly sweet frosting, Mom and Dad exchanged a look. "Sarah, honey, we have a surprise for you," Dad said, grinning. "Come with us to the parking lot." 10 minutes later, Sarah burst back in, practically glowing with excitement. She was clutching a set of car keys, twirling them around her finger. "Mom and Dad got me a car," she squealed. "Can you believe it? I have the best parents ever." She pranced over to where I sat, dangling the keys in front of my face. "So, sis, what did you get me for our birthday?" I stared at her, my mind blank with shock. A car. They'd bought her a car, while I got, what? An empty safe deposit box and a lifetime of debt. "Well?" Sarah pressed, her smile turning smug. "What's my gift?" Something inside me snapped. "My absence," I spat, standing up so quickly, my chair toppled over. "That's my gift to you, enjoy it." I stormed off to our shared bedroom, ignoring the shocked silence behind me. With shaking hands, I pulled out my suitcase and started throwing clothes into it. "Emma, what are you doing?" Mom's voice came from the doorway, more annoyed than concerned. "I'm leaving," I said, not looking at her. "I'm going to stay with Grandma." As I pushed past her, dragging my suitcase behind me, she grabbed my arm. "Remember," she hissed, "not a word to your grandmother about the car or the college money. Understood?" I yanked my arm free and walked out, not bothering to say goodbye. No one tried to stop me. The bus ride to Grandma's seemed to take forever. By the time I got there, it was late evening. Grandma opened the door, her face a mix of surprise and concern. "Emma? What are you doing here, sweetheart? I thought you were out celebrating with friends." "Of course. Another lie from Mom." "I just wanted to see you," I mumbled, suddenly exhausted. "Can I stay here tonight?" As I lay in bed that night, in the quiet comfort of Grandma's guest room, the events of the day washed over me. The safe deposit box, the car, the party, it all swirled in my mind like a toxic whirlpool. I wanted to tell Grandma everything, to let it all pour out. But Mom's threat echoed in my ears. I couldn't risk losing Grandma. She was all I had left. The next morning, I woke up with a plan forming in my mind. As Grandma bustled around the kitchen making breakfast, I took a deep breath and dove in. "Grandma, I was wondering, could I maybe work at your store? Like, properly? I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. And, maybe stay here for a while? It's just, things are so noisy at home with Sarah and all. Grandma turned to me, spatula in hand, her face softening. Oh, sweetheart, of course you can. I'd love to have you around more. Just like that, my life changed. I started working at the shoe store after school, learning more about the business side of things. Grandma was a patient teacher, showing me everything from inventory management to dealing with difficult customers. Every evening, we'd close up shop together and head home. Grandma would cook dinner, asking about my day, actually listening to my answers. For the first time in my life, I felt truly cared for, truly loved. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. I didn't go home, and honestly, I didn't want to. Mom and Dad never called, never checked in. It was like I'd disappeared from their lives, and they were fine with it. Grandma insisted on paying me a full salary, saying I'd earned it fair and square. I saved every penny I could, watching my bank account grow. But even with Grandma's generosity, college still felt like a distant dream. There was just never quite enough. Before I knew it, my 18th birthday rolled around. High school graduation followed soon after. I sat in the auditorium, watching as Sarah's name was called. Mom and Dad cheered loudly, beaming with pride. When my name was called, there was only Grandma's enthusiastic clapping from the back row. After the ceremony, I watched as my parents fawned over Sarah, taking pictures and handing her gifts. They didn't even glance my way. It stung, but I was almost used to it by now. You did good, kiddo, Grandma said, hugging me tight. I'm so proud of you. On the drive home, I took a deep breath and made my announcement. Grandma, I think I'm not going to college this year. Grandma's brow furrowed in confusion. But why, sweetheart? I gave your parents money for both you and Sarah's tuition. There should be plenty for you to go. My heart raced as I scrambled for an explanation, Mom's threat echoing in my ears. I want to save up more money, I said, hoping my voice sounded steadier than I felt. I want to be able to rent an apartment near campus, you know? Pay for my own accommodation. I just want to be more independent. Grandma studied me for a moment, and I held my breath, praying she wouldn't see through my lie. Finally, she nodded. That's very mature of you, Emma. If that's what you want, I'll support you. So that's what I did. While Sarah packed up for college, showered with new clothes and dorm supplies, I threw myself into work. Every day at the store taught me something new, not just about shoes, but about life, business, and myself. Living with Grandma and working at the shoe store became my new normal. Every morning, I'd wake up early, help Grandma with breakfast, and then head to the store. The smell of leather and polish that once represented my escape now felt like home. I threw myself into work with a determination that surprised even me. During the day, I'd help customers find the perfect pair of shoes, my smile never faltering even when dealing with the most demanding clients. In the evenings, after we'd closed up shop, I'd mop the floors, reorganize displays, and make sure everything was spotless for the next day. You've got a real knack for this, Emma, Grandma would say, watching me expertly handle a difficult return or upsell a customer on shoe care products. As the months went by, Grandma started teaching me more about the business side of things. I learned how to manage inventory, balance the books, and handle paperwork. It wasn't always easy, but I soaked up every bit of knowledge I could. You know, you could run this place someday, Grandma told me one evening as we went over the monthly accounts. You've got entrepreneurial spirit in your bones. Her words filled me with a pride I'd never felt before. For once in my life, someone saw potential in me. But even as I immersed myself in the world of retail, my dream of college never faded. Every paycheck I received, I'd squirrel away most of it, allowing myself only the bare minimum for necessities. It wasn't easy. I'd see girls my age walking by the store, shopping bags in hand, laughing with their friends. I'd watch as they tried on beautiful shoes that I could easily afford with my employee discount, but chose not to buy. Every time I said no to a night out or a new outfit, I reminded myself of my goal. The year flew by in a blur of shoeboxes, receipts, and saved paychecks. Before I knew it, I was looking at my bank account, hardly believing the number I saw there. I'd done it. I'd saved enough for college. With shaking hands, I picked up my phone and dialed the number I hadn't called in a year. "Hello?" Mom's voice answered, sounding surprised. "Hi, Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I wanted to let you know that I've saved up enough for college. I'm going to apply for next semester." There was a long pause on the other end. "Then, why don't you come over? We should talk about this in person." I agreed, a mix of emotions swirling in my stomach. As I hung up, I caught my reflection in the store window. The girl looking back at me wasn't the same one who'd run away a year ago. She was stronger, more confident. As I stepped into my old apartment, the familiar scent of home was gone, replaced by the sterile smell of fresh paint and new furniture. Mom greeted me with a forced smile, ushering me inside. "Emma, darling, come see what we've done with the place," she chirped, leading me through the living room. Dad trailed behind us, nodding along as Mom pointed out every new feature. The tour ended at what used to be my shared bedroom with Sarah. Now, it was a Pinterest-perfect space, clearly designed for one. "We had a designer come in," Mom gushed. "Isn't it just perfect for Sarah?" I stood there, feeling like a ghost in my own past. "Where's all my stuff?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "My books, my photos, everything I left behind?" Mom and Dad exchanged a quick glance. "Oh, honey," Mom said, her voice sickeningly sweet. "We had to clear out all that old junk. You understand, right? We needed to make space for new energy." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Years of memories, pieces of myself, all tossed away like trash. I blinked hard, fighting back tears. "Why did you ask me to come?" I managed to ask, my voice steadier than I felt. Mom's smile faltered for a moment. "Let's sit down, shall we? I'll make us some tea." Soon, I found myself perched on the edge of the sofa, a cup of tea and a plate of my once favorite cookies in front of me. The sweetness now felt like ash in my mouth. "Emma, sweetie," Mom began, her voice dripping with fake concern. "We're in a bit of a situation. You see, Sarah, well, she decided college wasn't for her. She dropped out after a year." I sat there, stunned. All that money, wasted. Money that was supposed to be for both of us. "The thing is," Mom continued, not meeting my eyes, "we need some help. About $20,000, to be exact." I nearly choked on my tea. "What? But that's most of the money I saved for college." "Oh, Emma," Mom sighed, reaching out to pat my hand. I resisted the urge to pull away. "You don't really need college, do you? You're doing so well at Grandma's store. And living with her, you don't have many expenses." My mind was reeling. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Besides," Mom added, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, "Sarah needs an apartment. She has a boyfriend now, and they want to live together. We thought we could use the money for a down payment on a mortgage." She trailed off, suddenly realizing what she'd said. Her eyes widened as she glanced at Dad, who was looking increasingly uncomfortable. I took a deep breath, steadying myself against the wave of emotions threatening to overwhelm me. The air in the room felt thick, charged with tension and unspoken truths. "No," I said firmly, my voice stronger than I felt. "I won't give you the money. Why don't you sell Sarah's car? Or use the money Grandma gave you for my education?" Mom's face underwent a rapid transformation, first paling to a ghostly white, then flushing an angry red. Her eyes narrowed dangerously. "There is no money left, Emma," she spat, her words dripping with venom. "We spent it all on Sarah's car, the renovations, new furniture, clothes. And now the car's totaled. Sarah had an accident while drunk, so insurance won't cover it. Each word felt like a physical blow. All that money, meant for my future, gone. Squandered on frivolities and Sarah's recklessness. Besides, Mom continued, her voice abruptly shifting to a sickeningly sweet tone that made my skin crawl, girls don't really need college. You should focus on finding a good husband. The casual dismissal of my dreams, my hard work, my entire future, ignited a fire in my chest. What about my interests? I asked, my voice shaking with a mixture of rage and disbelief. What about what I want? Mom waved her hand dismissively, as if swatting away an annoying fly. We are thinking of your interests, Emma. This apartment will be yours after we're gone. Isn't that enough? I couldn't help it, I laughed. I don't want your apartment. I want an education. I worked hard to save that money, and it's mine. Mom's face contorted with fury, transforming her features into something almost unrecognizable. She loomed over me, her voice dropping to a menacing growl that sent chills down my spine. You will do as you're told, Emma. Give us the money, now. But something had changed within me. The fear that had kept me compliant for so long shattered, replaced by a steely resolve. With a swiftness that surprised even me, I ducked under her outstretched arm and bolted for the door. Their voices followed me down the stairs, a cacophony of threats, curses, and insults that echoed in the stairwell. But with each step I took, they seemed to lose their power over me. As I walked home, the cool evening air clearing my head, my mind raced. Suddenly, a thought hit me like a bolt of lightning, stopping me in my tracks. Why hadn't I told Grandma about the money? The money she'd given my parents for my education, which they'd squandered on Sarah? The realization washed over me in waves. I'd been silent out of fear, paralyzing fear that Mom would follow through on her threat to keep me from Grandma. But I was 18 now. An adult. They couldn't control me anymore, couldn't dictate who I could or couldn't see. As soon as I stepped into Grandma's house, the words tumbled out of me like a dam breaking. I told her everything, about the money she'd given my parents for our education, how they'd spent it all on Sarah, how they'd forced me to earn my own way and then tried to take that from me too. Grandma listened, her face growing more thunderous with each revelation. When I finished, she was silent for a long moment, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. Those lying, manipulative. She muttered, then took a deep breath. Emma, I'm so sorry. I should have checked up on this years ago. Before I could respond, she was on her feet, phone in hand. I watched in a mixture of awe and trepidation as she dialed my parents' number. The conversation that followed was like watching a storm roll in. At first, my parents denied everything. But Grandma was relentless, her voice rising with each lie they told. Finally, they cracked, admitting to everything. How dare you? I heard Dad yell through the phone. Emma, you ungrateful snitch. Grandma's eyes flashed dangerously. Don't you dare speak to her like that, she snapped, then hung up. She turned to me, her face softening. Emma, sweetheart, I promise you this, I will protect your interests. You focus on your future, and let me handle them. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into college applications. It felt surreal, finally pursuing my dreams without the weight of my family's expectations holding me back. Then, out of the blue, Sarah called. Hey, sis, she chirped, as if the last few years hadn't happened. I need a favor. Can you lend me $4,000? I nearly choked. What for? There's this amazing online course on how to seduce rich men, she explained, excitement in her voice. I'm gonna land myself a millionaire, get rich quick. I'll pay you back, promise. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Sarah, that's insane. And gross. I'm not funding that. Oh, come on, she whined. Don't be such a prude. I broke up with Jake. I don't want some boring, ordinary life. I want wealth, luxury. No, I said firmly. Absolutely not. Don't call me again for stuff like this. I hung up, feeling a strange mix of pity and disgust. That was the last time I spoke to Sarah or my parents. Months passed. I started college, majoring in business management. Every day felt like a gift, learning, growing, becoming the person I was meant to be. One weekend, Grandma came to visit. As we sat in my tiny dorm room, she dropped a bombshell. "Your parents had to sell the apartment," she said. "They're drowning in debt, loans they took out for Sarah's schemes." They showed up at my door, asking to move in. My breath caught. "What did you say?" A small, satisfied smile played on Grandma's lips. I told them exactly where they could go. Reminded them of how they'd treated you, how they'd lied to me. "They're not my problem anymore." I hugged her then, tears in my eyes. "Grandma, thank you. For everything. For believing in me, for standing up for me. I don't know where I'd be without you." As we sat there, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The road hadn't been easy, and I knew there would be challenges ahead. But for the first time in my life, I was free. Free from manipulation, free from unfair expectations, free to be myself.